Hello and welcome to Module 3 of Partner Visa Secrets. You've made it. You've made it to the final module. Hopefully you have absorbed everything that we've covered in Module 1 and Module 2. And don't worry, I'm going to actually recap everything that we went over in the prior modules at the end of this module. But just to say that this is the end of the teaching. This will also be another long session, as I hope you are now familiar with and accustomed to. So as always, I think it's important we get straight into the content, straight into the teaching slides, and let's start working through the big concepts for today. So just to recap, we've gone through Module 1 and Module 2, now we're up to Module 3, and really today's module is about giving you tools that are available, so going over tools that will help you in the preparation of your own application and how to save on department charges. At the end of this module, I will also be presenting a special offer exclusive to Partner Visa Secrets attendees. So if you're interested in that offer, do stick around till the end. Now, let's look at where we left off in Module 2. So where we left off was understanding that it's about strengthening your relationship aspects prior to application. Okay, so we've stressed the importance of time of application criteria. If you recall, the definitions of spouse and de facto specified that couples need to prove that they are in a de facto or spouse relationship at the time of application, not at the time of decision. That is also part of the criteria, but not where couples can run into problems. It's often time of application because they haven't strengthened their aspects, their evidence, their documentation, their facts prior to applying. As we went over in prior modules, the exception to this, though, are prospective marriage visa applicants, because PMVs, you can actually use the processing of the application whilst you're waiting for the application to process and be decided by the government to keep strengthening that application. So PMVs are an exception to that principle, but still important that it's well prepared and well evidenced prior to applying. So that's where we left off yesterday. And again, just to recap, it's why you never rush into applying for an Australian partner visa. Part H, improving and proving your facts. So there's two parts of this process, and this is a concept and a principle we've covered in the prior modules, but just to go back over it again. The two parts of this are improving your facts prior to lodgement and then proving them. Okay, so you need documents that help you to prove that you meet the requirements. Now, what documents really help you do this? You know, what are the types of documents that we work with our clients in order to organize prior to applying? And those documents are listed in what I call the secret pillars of strength, and that's what we're going to get into now. And really, it's the types of documentation and information we prioritize as a firm if we're trying to evidence a spousal or de facto relationship. But also for couples that are applying for PMVs, we still look to get these documents in place, plus proving their intent to marry. So PMV applicants or couples looking at applying for a PMV, please rest assured this is still relevant to you. Everything I'm about to list, just add to this your wedding planning, okay? Your intent to marry and wedding planning. Now, what I will say is, in all honesty, I do feel that a lot of this that I'm specifically going to cover now, particularly in relation to the secret pillars of strength, is probably information that is most carefully and closely guarded by other agents and lawyers. And I expressed at the beginning of all this training that just the nature of the industry, information is closely guarded because that is an income stream for a lot of other professionals. But as I hope you are now familiar and become accustomed to, we do like to do things differently. And I'm going to actually walk you through the secret pillars of strength. So I'm going to break the paywall, as that graphic is there to represent. That's the piggy bank. That's me breaking down the wall and basically going to show you what the main documents are that I want you and your partner to try to get in place. So let's get straight into it. Now, if you're trying to prove spouse or de facto, and also relevant to PMV as indicated in that slide, here are some of the things that I would suggest you look into. Marriage and civil union certificates. Okay, marriage and civil union certificates help to demonstrate the commitment a couple have to one another. There's also other tangible benefits such as waiving the 12-month requirement, which is something we covered in earlier modules. Strong cohabitation evidence. So prove that a couple have cohabitated, and not just one or two things. You really want to dial in on proving prior and current and future plans, to cohabitate. Optimize joint bank accounts and transactional history. We went over my description and framework of what we mean by an optimized joint bank account, in having a joint account, using it for the relationship expenses of the relationship, and also saving for your intended milestones and future plans as a couple. Nominating each other as the beneficiaries to your superannuation policies, mainly relevant to couples that are onshore, or if one partner is here in Australia, contacting your super provider and seeing if they let you, and the process of nominating your partner as the beneficiary to your policy. It's a very strong indication of the commitment a couple have to another when they do something like this, because basically you're telling the government, if anything happens to me, I want to make sure that my partner is looked after. I want to make sure that they have access to my super. Kind of flowing on along that line is looking at organizing wills with each other as beneficiaries. Now, I completely understand that that sounds like a very dramatic and extreme thing to organize. And to give you some perspective and some context, particularly in terms of those two items I just listed, I would say on average, out of 100 cases that we prepare, if we're submitting them as a de facto or as a spousal couple, 90% will probably have the superannuation beneficiary change, in place. So they have each other nominated, or one partner has the other partner nominated. Wills, I think that it's probably less than that. It becomes a more significant document. It's something I do feel that couples need to maturely discuss and talk about with their partner if they feel comfortable and ready to commit to something like a will. But again, for a bit of perspective and context, I would say that maybe half of the applications that we organize will have wills. Now, to give you a bit more, to expand on that data a little bit, we do have a 99% success rate. So you're looking at whether you do or don't have wills doesn't seem to be a clincher in terms of determining whether or not a couple is going to meet the requirements. Mind you, if they haven't organized wills, it's very likely we've encouraged them to have everything else that we're kind of currently going over, and I'm about to jump into now. We then also recommend declaring your relationship with other government departments, and that can be Australian-based other government departments such as Centrelink and the ATO, or that could also be overseas government departments. It's not uncommon to see couples registering relationships with different jurisdictions overseas in different countries and different states. Not that necessarily, that doesn't waive the 12-month rule like it does when registering a relationship here with most Australian states and territories, but it's still good proof. It's still something that we would recommend you do if it's available to you. So if you are living overseas with your partner, or if your partner's overseas and they are able to register the relationship with a government department, depending where they are, then it's always advisable. It's not going to hurt the application. And in fact, we do list it as something that we feel is quite compelling and a strong document, a pillar of strength. Then we go into good form 888s and witness statements. Okay, so getting good witness statements from your social circle, which we talked about yesterday in module 2 in terms of the social aspect and the importance and relevance of getting well-written supporting statements from those closest to you, who you want to get them from. So we want to make sure that all applications have a good amount of well-written witness statements. Okay, and again, referring to module 2, anywhere from 6 to 10 is probably the average that we see for most applications. Engagement and wedding plans, particularly relevant for prospective marriage visa applicants, and I've got that there in the description, but also optional for other visa types. So it's not uncommon to see couples that are applying as a de facto couple. They have their civil union, but they've also recently engaged. You can have both. I'm not saying you need to have both. And something we covered in module 2 was, if you would ask me which is better in the partner visas world, I would say civil union trumps engagement, because the civil union waives a 12-month rule and engagement doesn't. But it doesn't mean you can't have both. Okay. And wedding planning, showing that you're planning a wedding, not just getting engaged. Relationship timeline images. So giving the department, a case officer, a visual representation of your relationship milestones. When you met, when you started dating, when you introduced each other to each other's families, when you moved in together, when you opened up those joint accounts, when you did nominate each other as your superannuation beneficiaries, when you did get engaged, when you did organize your wills, really kind of indicating to the department when you did all these things that we're talking about here should all be reflected in your timeline image. And a relationship timeline image is definitely right up there with one of the most important documents for any Australian partner visa, and at least one of the main documents that we work on with our own client cases. And then we have what I would say and often say is the most important document in any Australian partner visa, and that's your relationship statements as a couple. So as in both applicant and sponsor write their own individual statements that talk about the history of their relationship, all the milestones that we just kind of covered, and talking specifically, referring back to the 4 aspects of the relationship, discussing how the couple cohabitate, how they pool their finances, how they portray themselves socially, and what their commitment and future plans are as a couple. All of that put into a statement each, written in their own words, making sure that those statements are consistent with each other and consistent with all your other documentation, signed, dated, and attached to your application. Think of your relationship statements as like your cover letter for the rest of your application. And then think of your relationship timeline image as the visual representation of what you're saying in your statements. So they go hand in hand, and those are things that we work on quite carefully with our own clients when we're preparing applications and when reviewing the statements that they're drafting. So again, just to reiterate, the relationship statement really is what we feel is the most important document, and this is a visual graphic to represent what should be included in your relationship statement. Talk about your history, talk about your timeline, talk about the 4 aspects. You can refer back to your other supporting documentation. I mean, you can be super creative and really organized with statements. You can cross-reference back to your other documentation. You could include a table of contents. There's no right or wrong way necessarily in terms of how to write your statement. As long as you hit the right mark and hit the right points and talk about your future plans together. And as I said, your relationship timeline image, really the timeline image makes the case officer's job as easy as possible, because the majority of your other documentation, aside from maybe your photos together, is text-based, it's written documents, and they have to read things. Whereas if you give them a graphic, visual timeline, it's a easy, quick way for them to see what your relationship is about, what's happened in the past, what you've done, how long you've been together for before they've picked up the file. To give you some context and some perspective, whenever we're reviewing applications, or if I'm trying to get an idea on a couple's eligibility for a partner visa, or if I want to assess any areas of weakness, or if I want to see where things might be able to be improved, or if there's anything that's concerning, I will look at a timeline image first. I will ask for a timeline image. That will often indicate more to me than anything else, if it's done properly. And we do attach timeline images like this. So this is an example of a relationship timeline image that we would attach to an application for a client, along with all the other documentation. So those were the secret pillars of strength. Otherwise, I would call it a checklist of kind of core things that I want you to try to get in place as quickly as possible. Now, part I, getting your ducks in a row and big concepts recap. So get your ducks in a row. That's, I suppose, one of the main takeaways that I'd like you to get from this training. The homework for you, the principle I want you to really get your head around, is making sure that these secret pillars of strength, those key documents, you get them in place early on in your relationship. Otherwise known as getting your ducks in a row, getting organized in a row. And this graphic is there to help you absorb that and apply it to your relationship. So yes, you've met, yes, you've started dating, and it's somewhere along the line from now onwards, you're going to go do the things that we've spoken about. You're going to go do your homework. You're going to go implement these secret pillars of strength, and then you're going to look to apply for the partner visa. And then what you do from there is you keep updating your relationship evidence, and particularly your wedding planning if it's a prospective marriage visa, until you get that visa grant notification. Okay, so we went over the sequence of the application process, and you saw that at the end of it, you get that grant notification. That's why you're here, and that's what I hope to hear happens in the near future for you. And that's what you're working towards. And you want to keep updating your relationship evidence every few months until you get that decision. And also what we do recommend at the moment is organizing medicals immediately after applying and organizing police clearances for the applicant and sponsor, which can be done prior to lodgement. With the asterisks, okay, with the asterisks that the risk of doing that is that they might expire, because unfortunately, as we covered in Module 1, ultimately, we just don't know how long any application is going to take, and medicals and police clearances have specific timeframes in which they expire. To keep it really simple, let's use 12 months as the maximum. There is some leeway there when it comes to Australian Federal Police clearances for on-tour applications and also medicals. I covered that in Module 1, but more often than not, it's let's say around the 12-month mark. So if things expire, the department will request them again. Okay, so it's not as if your visa is going to be refused because your medicals and police clearances have expired. I've never, ever heard of an application being refused because there's medicals and police clearances expired. They will always give you an opportunity to update them because they know that it's beyond your control. And really it's the department's fault that an application wasn't processed prior to those documents expiring. So, it's a minimal risk, but there's a cost factor, because if you need to organize medicals more than once, there's a cost associated. And you need to get police clearances again, there's costs associated. But the upside of that is by organizing them quickly or in advance, you give the application an opportunity to be prioritized and processed quickly, because it's what would be known as decision ready or front loaded. And I say this because it's an official term, and they're just kind of industry lingo that you'll hear being in this space for as long as we have. So again, referring to another puzzle metaphor. Okay, so just throwing all these metaphors at you because I want these things to stick. And to use another metaphor, another analogy, it's you're trying to prove a picture to the department. You're trying to prove a picture to the government. And that picture is that you are in a de facto relationship when you apply for the visa, a spousal relationship as in married, married relationship when you apply for the visa, or for a PMV that you intend to marry and have met in person, okay, and that you want to be and live together as spouse. So those are the pictures, right? Those blocks, those color blocks, in other words, that we covered in Module 1 and 2. But let's use the analogy of a picture. These are pictures you're trying to cover, and the documents you provide them are pieces towards covering that picture. Some pieces will be larger than others. To using this graphic as an example, I would say, strong cohabitation evidence, marriage certificates, civil unions, they cover a larger portion of that picture, arguably. So it's about trying to get the larger pieces in place and then kind of working your way from there, but ultimately trying to get as many of those pieces as possible to cover as much of that picture as possible. And ultimately, that's how you strengthen your case, and that's how you minimize the risk of a refusal, maximize the likelihood of an approval, and maximize the likelihood of it being processed quickly. Because as we covered in earlier modules, the strength of a couple's facts prior to applying, i.e. the pieces they have in place, and the better prepared an application is, i.e. the more comprehensive their evidence and documentation like this, the faster an application can be processed. I mean, any migration professional that's been in the space for long enough would agree with that principle, because that's often an argument that can be used by professionals in our space, and something that we can also say in that, look, we can't guarantee that your application is going to be approved, but we can guarantee that we're going to prepare it very comprehensively, just like we have every other case. And we are confident that the better prepared and organized an application is, the faster things can be processed. It's just human nature and logic. So the same thing applies for you if you're doing this. The better prepared, the more pieces you have, the more of that picture you're covering, the higher likelihood a case officer won't have to ask anything of you. It's all going to be laid out. There's not going to be any concerns or questions. They're going to be confident you meet the criteria because you've given them everything, and things should be streamlined. So the big concepts recap, guys. So that's really the content that I wanted to teach you in Partner Visa Secrets. We've gone over all the big concepts, but let's recap them, okay? Because that was a few hours ago that we started all this. So let's recap from the beginning. You now know about the application process, okay? We went over the the step-by-step process of submitting an application, the forms you need to complete, uploading documentation, the correspondence you can expect from the department, the waiting time, you may receive requests for information, and then you get that decision, you get that visa grant notice. You now know about the application process. We have demystified it. Hopefully you're no longer overwhelmed or scared about what to expect. That's what you can expect to happen. You now can identify what situation you fall into and the visa options and strategies available. So depending on if you're here as a couple, overseas as a couple, or physically apart, we've gone over the different situations and the appropriate and corresponding visa options and strategies, the pros and cons, and how to identify what makes sense for you, depending on particularly those couples overseas or couples apart, how quickly you want to be here as a couple or how quickly you want to get your partner here. Often the first factor and the first question to ask yourself, and that often dictates what you should be doing next, or the options that are most appropriate to you in terms of what to do next. You now know what factors can influence the processing time of your application. We went over the 6 processing time factors, and being very transparent with you, one of those factors is luck. And I say that because I don't want you to get too disheartened if you follow everything that I've taught you in this training. You have all your ducks in a row, and yet you're still waiting for your application more than the next person who maybe didn't prepare the application as well as you. Unfortunately, that can happen. Thankfully, we do find that that's not the majority of the time, but that's the uncertainty or unpredictability of dealing with the Australian government. You are just a number, and that's something we talked about as well in Module 1. And numbers can get lost. So just be aware, but at least you now know that there are some things you can control. There's some levers you can pull. There's some influence that you can have in the processing time of your application once it's submitted to the government. You now know that meeting the requirements of a partner visa is like collecting blocks that you need, and you need these blocks at the time of application. Okay, so there's blocks that you need to have in place. You need to prove de facto, prove spouse, or intent to marry for a PMV, and that needs to be at the time of application, except for PMV, which we've covered. Okay, so if you're applying for an 820 or a 309, and it's as a de facto couple, or as a spousal couple, as a married couple, there's blocks you need. You need them before you apply. Okay, not after, not just after. You now know that it's all about proving the 4 aspects of your relationship collectively. So those blocks, really what we're talking about is proving the 4 aspects of your relationship and understanding that your aspects will be assessed collectively, not just singularly. You can't fail cohabitation. You can't fail financial, but together you can. Okay, and same in reverse. You can be weak in one or two and strong in others and still be granted the visa. You can still meet that definition. You now know that you're going to have particular scenarios for each aspect, and it's about trying to move up the weight scale as best you can. So I listed different scenarios, examples of how couples may be cohabitating or not cohabitating, and how they may be pulling their finances or not pulling their finances, and how socially acceptable or known their relationship is. And we talked about the different scenarios and understanding that ultimately it's really about trying to work your way up as best you can, depending on what is realistic in your scenario and what options you have available to you, and just being aware that you have that option. You have that power ultimately to strengthen each aspect as best you can. And again, it's about strengthening these aspects prior to applying, not after. Okay, time of application criteria, really going to drill that in, or hopefully have drilled that into you in this training. It's not about just improving your facts, it's about proving them. Okay, so it's all well and good to say that you're strengthening these aspects, but you need to prove that you have. And the best way to prove them is to collect documents that matter, collect documents that hold weight. And we worked through the pillars of strength, the key things that I would recommend any couple to do if they're applying for an Australian partner visa of any type. And ultimately, you now know that all this means you need to get your ducks in a row. Okay, so again, back to the ducks. Get your ducks in a row before you apply for your partner visa. And the sooner you do this, the earlier you start this process of being organized, the better prepared and stronger your application is going to be. The stronger your relationship will be, and i.e. the stronger your application will be whenever it comes to being submitted. Part J, money hack and cool tools. So, money hack, how to save money. So, when you submit the non-refundable application fees to the Australian government, there's certain ways you can pay. So, once you complete the visa application form, you get all the way to the end, you press that submit and pay button, nothing happens, as I said, then it goes to the payment page, okay, the payment page. In the payment page, you can select your preferred payment method. Now, depending what you select will determine the surcharge that the government will impose on your payment method. A little hack, it's not little, there's a bit of money to be saved here. A hack is that instead of using your Visa or MasterCard, so let's say you want to use your Visa or MasterCard because you want to collect points, frequent flyer points. It's a large expense. It's worth trying to get other benefits from this. So you want to use your Visa or MasterCard, you're going to get points by doing so. But if you select Visa or MasterCard in your payment method and put your card details in, yes, you'll get your points. But the problem is that you are paying a 1.4% surcharge, okay, 1.4%. Versus if you put your Visa or MasterCard or connect your Visa or MasterCard to a PayPal account, free to open. So you connect your Visa or MasterCard to PayPal, and then in the application, you actually select PayPal, not Visa or MasterCard. You select PayPal, and then you select the same Visa or MasterCard you were going to use anyway. You will only incur a 1.01% surcharge. So you use the same card in effect, same funds, but you've selected PayPal, not Visa, MasterCard. So, you've saved $30 or $40 there just by doing that. Or if you want to save completely in terms of paying no surcharge, you can use BPay. There's a BPay payment option, and that is a zero surcharge. My only recommendation, though, is that BPay, there's a delay, in terms of when the application is formally acknowledged. The department do recommend not to lodge an application using BPay if your visa is expiring really within the next week, let's say. Okay, they say 3 days, but I'm going to be more conservative. If your visa is expiring in a week, don't use BPay. Use PayPal. If your visa is expiring, in the future, then BPay is a perfectly acceptable and safe way to submit your application, and you're going to save all of the surcharge. So you're saving either $80 or $113, depending on which one you would have, which payment method you would have used. So, a couple of options there in terms of trying to save money in this process, in this already expensive journey, this already expensive process in paying the government for, for them to look at your relationship. Cool tools. This one's called Small PDF. We use Small PDF religiously here in Salvo Migration, and it is basically a PDF, PNG, JPEG manipulator. So you can use Small PDF to merge documents, compress documents, split, change, cut. Every kind of tool is built into Small PDF, and that definitely is part of the process of organizing your documentation. When you're organizing your documents for the Australian application process, you do need to merge things. You'll need to compress things. There's a file size limit in terms of the government. In the IMI portal, you can't upload files more than 5 megabytes. So you need to learn how to compress PDF documents often. You might have a very large PDF. You may have put all of your color photos into one Word document and tried to save that, and you'll see that it's a really large file. You can use something like this to try to compress it or to split it. So split it into multiple files. So, relationship evidence, color photos, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and keep those individual attachments under 5 megabytes. This tool will help you do things like that. And it comes with a 14-day free trial. Otherwise, there's a paid version. I mean, we have a paid version. It's I can't remember how much it is, just not a lot, to be honest. But 14 days might be enough, for you to kind of get some documents optimized and compressed. So that's a good one. This one's a full page screen capture. It's a Chrome extension. So if you use Google Chrome, and this is really handy when you want to take a full screen capture. So let's say, for example, if you and your partner are in a relationship on Facebook, you can actually click on their profile. Okay, that's my brother-in-law. If you click on their profile and you see where it says see friendship, if you click on that, what it does is Facebook actually generates kind of like a timeline of your friendship on Facebook. And so that's on its own is pretty cool. But then if you use the full page screen capture, when you have that friendship timeline generated in Facebook or open in your Chrome browser in Facebook, click on that extension and it prints out that timeline as a PDF. So you have a single PDF that shows all your interactions together as a couple or as friends on Facebook. And that could be everything you tagged each other in, the comments and messages on public kind of posts and photos, etc. All very nicely organized in one PDF document. Great social proof, and certainly something worth looking into. And mainly relevant to those that are active on social media, but that full page screen capture might be relevant in other areas of your partner visa preparation as well. Cool tools. This is a phone chat extractor, an example of a phone chat extractor. So I do get this question a lot. Martin, how do I easily get all the messages, proof that I've been messaging my partner, that we've been communicating, because people know that's part of things to organize. And this is an example, or just to highlight that there maybe are third-party tools available to help you with that process. Some are paid, some are free, so it might require a bit of Googling, but this is an example of one. And this is a chat extractor for iPhone. Okay, so you can extract your messages with your partner using something like this. It'll spit it out in a neat, simple, organized, single file, versus you having to kind of take screenshots or photos of your messages to one another, which might be very time consuming. So this might save you time. And I'm just kind of putting this here as an example of other tools that might exist, to help you in that part of the process. And guys, that wraps up module 3 of Partner Visa Secrets. But look, there's more to stick around for. And as you recall, at the beginning of all this, I introduced you to the concept of the Partner Visa puzzle. And I promised you that by watching the training, or that the training was structured to give you as many of those pieces as possible, or try to give you as many of those pieces as possible. That being said, the reality is that there's only so much that I can give you here on video, and realistically, there's still some pieces that I would say are still orange, not fully green. Certainly a lot of them are, but I'm going to say that some pieces are likely still orange. And that's because I can't give you all the pieces here without speaking to you, without actually giving you tools and resources. The information I've provided you really is geared towards module 1, module 2, the conceptual pieces, and now you're familiar, you understand that there's practical pieces that you need to organize. So with your permission, with your permission, I'd like to now present to you the offer, what we've put together exclusively for Partner Visa Secrets attendees, with the hopes and knowledge that we're going to give you those missing pieces. How can we turn those missing pieces from orange into green? Now, what I will say is the offer that I'm going to present will expire. There's a strict time frame, a deadline that I'll talk about at the end of this presentation. So just keep that in mind. And ultimately, today's offer revolves around our Visa software and coaching subscription. So a bit of brief history about Visa, this is as brief as I can make it. Visa is, in simple terms, a custom-built a custom-built cloud-based partner visa preparation software, something we built from scratch. We started developing it late in 2017. A prototype was ready in mid-2018, so quite a long time ago now. We used it initially internally as a teaching tool and to help our staff prepare applications. In around 2018, 2019, we opened it up to beta testing, so to a small group of partners. Beta testers use the software, started submitting applications around early mid-2019. We waited. Back then, applications were taking 18 months for finalization. And around 2020, we started getting messages from our beta testers of approvals. All those examples are available in our VZ website. So on our website, there's a VZ section. And you can look at all the success stories. Many of them were our original beta testers. In mid-2020, we staggered early bird access. So once we knew that it worked, so the beta testers were successful, we tested the theory, can we build a system and provide support for couples to prepare applications comprehensively and ultimately get granted? We tested the theory and it was successful. So around mid-2020, we staggered early bird access. So we started to offer VZ to the broader public. Up until February this year, we used to sell VZ as a 12-month package, 12-month license. And the starting point price for VZ back then was just under $1,000. I'd say around the $1,000 mark. Since February this year, since February 2022, I should say, we have been trialing a monthly subscription model, which is currently charged at $147 per month. However, stay on to the end of the presentation for the offer. Our users have 100% reported success rate, meaning in 3 years, more than that now, to be honest, we have never been notified of a user being refused a partner visa application. That's 100% genuine and an authentic statement. We've had over 200 couples use VZ to date. That's more than some migration agents or lawyers would have submitted in their careers. That's an honest statement. Ultimately, the purpose behind VZ is to give couples an affordable alternative between doing applications completely alone, so completely DIY, and full representation. Engaging an agent or lawyer that can be a very expensive exercise, and trying to find a safe middle ground solution, something that's affordable, but at the same time safe and empowers people to prepare the best possible partner visa applications. That's the purpose behind VZ, and that's why we offer it. Real people just like you love using VZ. They've been wearing VZ shirts for a few years now. I should have put mine on, to be honest. There's a comment there from Melissa Shing. My partner said, Martin, my partner said I should become a migration agent and work with you because I enjoy VZ so much. So it must be okay if people are commenting on it like that. These are just examples of our VZ users getting approved. There's more approvals and testimonials available on our website. So please go to vz.salvomigration.com.au/success stories. There's countless examples of visa users reporting their approvals. We've had prospective marriage visas granted for our users, 820, 309s, all of them. Okay, all the first stage applications have been successful in people using the software in our coaching to get their own applications approved, the PMV, the 820, and the 309. In fact, as I said, in over 3 years, we have 100% reported visa user success rate with dozens and dozens of examples. Again, those are available on our website. But as amazing as that sounds, it's not that surprising if I'm honest. VZ in our coaching is intended to show you how we would prepare it, how we would prepare an application. And ultimately, we know how to get applications approved. We do have an approvals booklet, which gives you countless examples of approvals that we've secured for our cases and our clients. And really, VZ is us distilling everything we know and putting it into an easy-to-use system and then providing ongoing support and coaching around that system. So I'm not ultimately surprised that our visa users get their visas granted because it models what we do and it follows the methodology and our system and our framework to prepare an application comprehensively. And as I hope you've learned, well-organized and well-prepared and comprehensive applications have a higher likelihood of being granted, meeting the requirements. Okay, so you have a higher likelihood of meeting the requirements and therefore a higher likelihood of being granted the application. So for a full demonstration, now I don't want to take up a lot of your time today in giving you a a demo of the software. There's a 30 to 40 minute demo available on the website. So if you go to vz.salvomigration.com, there's a demo there. So click on the demo button and you'll see me clicking through the software so you get familiar with what we mean by software and what it does and what the tools are and the functions and how it actually helps you stay organized in your partner visa preparation. Or, of course, we can do it for you with a strong arm there, okay? Because I know, because I've been doing this for long enough, that the less we push for full representation, the more people are in fact interested in using full representation. It's a bit of a contradiction, okay? Because there are always going to be couples that prefer the peace of mind of us handling the case for them, okay? We know that. It's always been the case. We will always offer full representation as a service, but it's not what we lead with, okay? We lead with the more DIY, let's empower you, let's teach you, let's give you the tools. But at the end of the day, if you prefer for us to do it for you, of course we can. And why should you miss out? And you won't. You still get to use Veezy. We in fact give you a lifetime license to Veezy, so a bit of a perk there. We give you all the same resources. We'll give you the case files. You can have a look at them. We'll give you the same templates, the same guides, because that's the starting point. Those are the same resources we would always want to use, and that's why we sell them, and that's why we make them available and included in this package in the first place. It's because they are great resources and very helpful in organizing very key documents for a partner visa application. So of course, we're going to include that for our full representation clients. So our charges for the preparation of a full partner visa, a first stage partner visa, are $5,500 plus the government application fees. We have a very simple payment structure. There's no surprises. We ask for 75% of our charges to start the process, and then the final 25% and the government charges to submit. Okay, 75% to start. We'll issue your Veezy license, give you all those resources, and we start the process. And then when the visa is ready to be submitted, which will likely be 2 to 3 months from there based on averages, we then request the final payment in order to submit the application. Okay, what's included? Professional representation for your first stage partner visa application, lifetime license to Veezy. We give you your client zone. The client zone is what houses all the digital resources that I've listed there. It's unlimited email and phone support. We aim to respond within 24 hours. We review all your statements and supporting documents, providing ongoing feedback and preparing the perfect application. We draft your department forms. We represent you with the government until a decision is made, i.e. we are on your team more so than anyone else, and we fight for your case until a decision. So our relationship with you as our full representation client can span years, depending on the visas we apply for and how long things take. For those that are interested in our full representation, you can book a free planning session on our website. You can go to inquiry.salvomigration.com.au, book your planning session. Ordinarily, we charge $297 for a planning session. It's offered for free temporarily, so please do take us up on that offer if you're interested in our full representation. Step 3 is during the call, if we feel you are eligible, we will offer our services. Step 4, we will then send a proposal to you, which is our client services agreement. Once we have your proposal signed and your initial payment has been received, you are our client and we start the journey with you. Okay, that's the steps involved in engaging us for full representation. What professional representation really means, so being really honest and transparent about the process, there is homework. Okay, it doesn't matter if you engage a lawyer or agent. There's going to be homework in the process for any couple. You will have homework to do. We need you to get us the information and documentation we require. I can't get your birth certificate. I can't contact your bank and get your bank statement. There's things you need to get us. Our job is to simplify and streamline this for you, and to be there on call to answer your questions, because just like our visa users, our full representation clients always have questions and we're there to answer them and support them. Accountability, okay? We have built systems and processes to keep our clients accountable in their collection of documentation. We have automations where we will periodically, very gently email our clients and say, hey, this is the phase of where we're at with your application at the moment, which means we're still waiting on you to provide us some key things. Please give us those key items as quickly as you can, because once we have them, we can then review them, give you feedback, and we will progress you through our processing phases. So we have accountability built into the process. Team, okay, you have access to our team of lawyers. It's not just me. We give priority support to our full representation clients. Time, we prioritize our time for our full representation clients, and our reputation. Ultimately, you are, you're paying for our reputation. We've been in the industry for quite a while now. 5-star rated company, 99% success rate, examples of approvals. That's part of engaging us for the preparation of your partner visa application. And so lastly, what is your spectrum of need? I think that's ultimately the question, the main question you need to be asking yourself. If you're unsure on what product or service may suit you, you need to ask yourself what your level of need is, your spectrum of need. So to use another table, another diagram, on the left-hand side, it's the level of professional support you think you need with your application. Again, I can't sit here and tell you what your level of support or professional support is going to be. And then, on the bottom end of that table is, the money you invest in your application. The more professional support you think you need, the more expensive the process will become. Because if it's, DIY with no support, that's the cheapest thing, right? You don't need to pay anything. It's the cheapest, but you get no professional support. Or if you, let's say, take us up on these, VZ offers and discounts and power-ups, that's a middle ground, as I've always, I've been trying to put across. That's has level of support built into that process. Not the cheapest, but not the most expensive. It's in the middle. Or of course, there's full representation, which is where you get the most level of professional support, but it's the most expensive option. To me, I think that really comes down to 4 factors. For any couple, it's time, how much time you have to invest in this. Money, ultimately, of course, what you can afford. Experience. How experienced are you in prior applications? Have you prepared your own applications in the past or other people's applications in the past, or are familiar with administrative procedural applications, for other things? And anxiety. How anxious and nervous are you about this process, and how many questions do you think you're going to have, and how much do you feel you're going to need to lean on a professional to be there for you? And ultimately, personal preferences. You might have other personal preferences that are factors that will determine what your level of professional support, needs to be. Just to be clear, we are a national firm. We have clients everywhere. Yes, we are physically located in Brisbane, but we have clients all over Australia and all over the world. And that also goes to our visa students as well as our full representation. So it doesn't matter where you physically are located. We can assist you as our visa students, through our coaching, or we can engage you for full representation. This whole process is done digitally, electronically. All documents and information is scanned and uploaded. There's no need for physical copies. I don't need originals. So, the days of having to prepare applications in paper are long gone, thankfully, and everything's been streamlined. So we have clients everywhere, and it doesn't matter where you are. We are a small yet well-oiled machine, which means that we are a family-run business at the end of the day. We are not a large multi-city company. You know who you are dealing with, but you enjoy the benefit of a team, a wealth of knowledge in our team. That's our legal team. We have others behind the scenes, though. We have legal assistants. We have a video editor and graphic designer. We have people that help with accounting. So yes, it's us that manage the applications and assist our coaching and visa students, but we have a few others that kind of help with other parts of the business as well, just so you get an idea of, a bit of behind the scenes here at Salvo Migration. And guys, that wraps up Partner Visa Secrets. Keep an eye out for an email from me with links to the deal that I've spoken about in this video. However, there is that link, vz.salvomigration.com.au/PVS offer, if you want to go have a look at it now. I will also email a link to book a call with myself and us for a planning session if you're interested in our full representation. Please also rate your experience with Partner Visa Secrets. I really do hope you've enjoyed this. As enjoyable as it can be to learn about legal requirements for anything. I hope that it's been entertaining enough. I hope that it's been engaging enough. I hope the diagrams have helped convey the concepts and the principles, and ultimately you've learned things that you didn't know in the past and would never learn really anywhere else. So in emails that you will receive following the completion of this training, we will ask you to kindly leave a review about your experience attending Partner Visa Secrets. I'd love to hear your feedback. I'd love to hear how we can make it better, what you liked, what you didn't like. Any feedback is welcome, and ultimately will just help us improve the deliverability of this training and how we can make things better. And ultimately, I hope to see you inside our Visa group and or work with you and your partner as our clients, as our full representation clients. But ultimately, if not, I still wish you all the very best in your Partner Visa journey. I'm constantly contacted by people that have either attended similar training in the past or have watched our content on YouTube, and you'd be surprised how often I get random messages from people that say, Martin, I've been following your stuff for years. I was recently granted my Partner Visa. I really couldn't have done it without you. And I've never spoken to this person in my life. And, those messages are very rewarding because it means that we are impacting and helping people in some way or another. Yes, they didn't become customers and didn't become clients, but at the end of the day, that's not what this is all about. It is about helping people. Yes, we have a business to run, but if I can help at the same time, then it's a win-win for everybody. And that's the completion of Partner Visa Secrets. That was a big few sessions. And as I said, I hope that it's been beneficial to you and your partner. Please keep an eye out for the deadlines for the offer and would love to hear your feedback, as I've said. So I'll leave it there. I think I've taken up enough of your time for now. Martin from Salvo Migration and Visa, and all the best on your Partner Visa journey.